is Ed Johnson. You know, I grew up here in Little Rock. Wasn't born here, but I was raised here. Been here since I was 2 years old. I'm 74 years old, so I've been here most all my life. Graduated from high school here, Horace Mann, class of 68. Oh, greatest class ever came out. And it's been 15 months in Vietnam. And you're in the hospital, got 2 Purple Hearts out of Vietnam.
Okay, tell me what you remember from 1957.
Well, y'all asking me to scrape my brain. 1957.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember about 1957 is I remember seeing the Army trucks coming up and down 14th Street. But I never knew what was happening on the other end of 14th Street because I never even knew Central was down at the end of the street. Before the river went was High Drive, High Street. So at that time you see the Army men coming up and down 14th Street. All that was going on in the Central, that race ride. The Little Rock Nine was getting in Central. I never even knew all that was happening until about, I'll say 5 or 6 years later when I learned about Little Rock Central. And I was at Booker Junior High, Booker Elementary or middle school, when I learned about Little Rock Central.
So did people say don't go past this point, like in your neighborhood, like was there?
No, Mom and Dad said, don't be over there or down the street. They don't want you no more than 2 or 3 blocks from the house. At that time, I think I was like about 8 years old, so I could understand what they were talking about.
Okay, so imagine, did you ever imagine going to school with white children during that time, or?
I remember when they came to Horace Mann, they were talking about switching students. I do remember that, and that was in my 10th grade, I think like in the early 60s, I mean like about 65. And they were talking about sending some more black students to Central and bringing some white students on Horace Mann. A lot of the black students elected to go from the 10th grade to Central, and I wasn't one of them. I knew that some good friends of mine, they transferred to Central, and I don't know why I didn't want to go. I guess maybe I didn't know the difference about white and black, or because when I grew up in the cotton fields. On Saturday morning we went to the cotton fields, and the only time you saw white folks was when they was over the cotton fields. So going to school with them, that was kind of a scary thought, switching from Horace Mann going to Central. Now, what made it scary, I don't know. I guess because I was so comfortable at Horace Mann.
Did you ever hear of any incidents or any people talking about the experience at Central? Any stories about the?
I heard about it, and I saw it a couple times, like when Horace Mann played Central in football games. If you looked on one side of the stadium, you see mostly blacks. And on the other side of the stadium, maybe mixed with the few blacks that went to Central and mostly white. Then you probably seen a fight or two going on. I don't know did that have anything to do with the race or not, just white folks didn't like black folks or black folks didn't like white folks. I think we as black folks, we always accepted the white folks a lot quicker than they accepted us.
Okay, so looking at that time, what was the temperature like in the African American community during the 1957? Was there like any energy, or did you hear about people talking about things?
I used to hear my dad talking about Mr. So-and-so and there down in Central, or Mr. So-and-so and then I don't need you hanging out to the point where when they ride up and down the street, they own 14th Street or stuff like that. Because we live like 3 houses over from where Church's Chicken is sitting right now. And my uncle Levi out there, they own all that. And they always told us about what was going on down the street. But I don't think that I was really just listening to that problem, because I guess I was so into my black world. But as I grew older, I started hearing stories about people saying that they got in fights, they got jumped, or they didn't last more than 1 or 2 years at Central, then they got transferred back to Horace Mann or went to Jones High School. I knew Miss Bates because Miss Bates was always in the community helping the kids out, or when you pass by her house, you know, she would always want you to raking leaves and stuff like that. That's the only way I knew Miss Bates. I didn't know Miss Bates personally, like Miss Daisy this and Miss Daisy that. I just knew because we lived in the neighborhood. She would come down to Thrasher Boys Club a lot, not just hanging around Thrasher Boys Club, but she would always make an appearance because she was in the neighborhood. Her and Miss Gray, I think, was pretty much good friends because Miss Gray was the one who recruited me to coach the Sunset Tigers football program. So that's how I knew Miss Bates. But now as far as all that stuff that went on, Miss Bates drove the cars over Central, took the kids to school every morning. I heard about all that later from the early '60s to now. I don't see the progress other than you're allowed to sit at the counters, because the first time I sit at a counter, this white man was gonna whoop me, and my mama whooped me to keep him from whooping me because the sign said white and colored. I seen all this as I was growing up, and up and down 14th Street going to Central. Most of the white folks stayed around Central anyway at that time. So you asking what do I think the progress of our race, the progress of the school system. I don't, in my personal opinion, I've seen a lot of the schools get wiped out in the black neighborhood. And I'm not sure it has something to do with race or not, but I see the schools that get knocked down, they get renamed something else. It won't be the same black name that the school was, or you knock it down. Let's say Horace Mann got knocked down to a middle school, and by me being a Horace Mann graduate, I thought Horace Mann was the greatest school around. I even thought the environment was greater at Horace Mann than it was at Central, because I hear a lot of people were telling me about how the environment at Central was, where you had to be in a group to really survive. And that means that you get caught in the wrong place and the white kids didn't like you, or there was a race problem. First time my experience was at Sterling Department Store. I drank out of a water fountain. And my mama, this white man was gonna whoop me because I drank out the deal. I didn't look up and see the sign said white and colored. My mama whooped me to keep this man from whooping me. That was my first experience on black and white or the race. That's what that sign meant. White over here and colored over here. I never knew what the black and white color really meant. I don't think I even learned what black and white and the color meant until I first got in the United States Army. That's when you found out that there really was a such thing as, I was called the N word. Didn't even know all that existed until I got up in, let's say, I would say in the 11th grade. That's when you started to find out that there was a lot going on in this world, and that's what that sign meant, color and white. Everything on I would say, west of Martin Luther King going towards Central, the white folks pretty much own all that. Even when you went to the stadium over there, a lot of folks didn't even know that the stadium was named Earl Quigley. They always thought the stadium was Central High Stadium. And today, people don't even know it's called Earl Quigley.
I've heard that for years.
Well, when they built Booker, Booker was supposed to have been the new Horace Mann for the track, because Horace Mann didn't have a stadium. Horace Mann didn't have nothing but the high school. And if you look at the property over in that area, I don't know was that room or not, but that deal across the street from Horace Mann down and turned into a megaplex soccer field. Horace Mann had to use Booker Field a lot for the track meets. And every now and then we had to practice over there on the football program. But when we played at Central, it was like we was out our elements, because we was like a well, I said third class football program, playing against Central, playing against Hall, playing against Catholic. We didn't have what they had as far as equipment. We didn't have what they had as far as things that made us a better football program. That's when I found out that there was such thing as difference in the schools, difference in the books. When you go into school, you never thought about why I got a book that don't read the same as the books over Central anywhere else. You just thought, enjoy yourself at Horace Mann, because that was my most enjoyable years in school. I was a young man. I was 12 years old, I think, Dave, when I started venturing downtown, because the GM Theater was down there on 9th Street, the Rialto was downtown, and the Central Theater, the Center Theater was downtown. All of those theaters where you had to sit upstairs, or you couldn't go down there where the white kids was. And then the one on Main Street was pretty much the same thing. That you get caught on Main Street and late at night, you probably had a problem getting back down south.
Okay. Do you have any memories of the schools being shut down in '57?
Yeah, I do. That summer was good because I played in my yard that whole summer, didn't have to go to school. That whole fall, didn't have to go to school. I think I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. And we had to do that was just read our books at home, but you get to play out there in the dirt all day, get to play in the yard all day, didn't have to worry about getting up in the morning. I think that was a fun time.
Did any of your friends go to J.C. Cook or leave the state or anything to finish school?
I know a lot of my friends, I can say I knew some friends of mine that I grew up with and still probably got close contact with now. I know they transferred to Central, and that's where they graduated at. I'm not aware of any of them left the state and went anywhere else, went to school. I know a couple of them transferred to Jones High School because I know the female I was going to marry, well, not married, one of the girlfriends, and we always had dreams someday later on marrying, but I knew she was at Jones High School, and she transferred over there. I don't want to say for sure, but I think I was in maybe the 10th grade over Horace Mann when he came through Little Rock, and our teachers told us about him because we would sit up in class when they told us about he had got killed at Horace Mann. I wasn't aware. Let's just say I wouldn't expose that type of life where knowing Dr. King came through. I don't think he made an appearance at Horace Mann. I think when he came through, it was like the NAACP meeting, something like that. And we were told at school that he had come through Little Rock. But other than that, I never met him, but I read a lot of his words, and probably to speak with longevity has its purpose. I pretty much like to live on stuff Dr. King put out. I don't know could I have lived the life Dr. King lived. I'd probably be a dead hero today. But he was the guy that influenced a lot of us to do the things we're doing. He was the guy that pretty much gets in our head when we're preaching to the kids about nonviolence, preaching to the kids about education, preaching to the kids about quality of life. His words carry a whole lot of weight in people's lives. I don't know there's another black leader that we listen to more than him. Even when you read the stuff that he's printed, listen to his speeches, when you're sitting up in class, because the day he got killed, we pretty much thought the world was coming to an end. Even though you had never met the man, but you knew, you've heard his speeches in class and stuff like that. Pride for education probably gonna start with neighborhood schools. Most kids now have been pulled out of their neighborhoods, and there's no neighborhood pride anymore. The only pride they got now is neighborhood colors. And neighborhood colors roll over into neighborhood gangs. What our kids need today more is role models. We need people that let this young man, this young woman know that there's another life other than hanging out in the streets of the clubs. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against clubs. I have nothing against hanging out, but the idea is when you're hanging out, is there a purpose for it? We need role models. We need people that look at the kids that's out there now. We got guys that's in the youth sports field that I'm in that nobody up in the higher echelon looks down at. They don't help them. They don't try to give them the road that they need to go down to recruit kids or put kids in sports. There's a lot of kids out there that are being pushed back, and when they get pushed back, they come back mean. The justice system seems like the only answer to that is locking them up. And I tell my kids, when you go to the zoo, you see that tiger when he's pacing left and right in that 12 by 12 cage. Why you think he's pacing? Because he's pissed off, he's locked up. Well, if he ever get out that cage, he's biting the first thing that get in his way. Well, when the kid get out of prison, he's already mad because you done locked him up all them years, then you let him back out on the street. Then he come back out. He's right now retaliating against the system, and the system done him wrong, so he's doing somebody else wrong. And what we need is understanding to the point where help them get jobs, help them be able to look up their manhood back where they can survive on their own. And the kids is going to school, and he got to get up at 6:30 in the morning and get on the bus. Man, when I was working driving truck every morning, I come out of my house at 6:30. I'm looking left and I'm looking right. That kid come out and stand on the corner, they're not afraid of anything. It's dark when they're out there on the corner. And they got to ride the bus for 30 minutes. I take my little grandson to school. It takes me 20, 25 minutes to drive from my house to Southwest to get him in school. So I can understand when the kid busts out of his neighborhood, when he get back it's dark, when he go to bed it's dark, when he get up in the morning time he being busted out again. So he has no neighborhood to be proud of. He has no background to be proud of. The only thing he got to be proud of is the youth football team that he's on, and then he grew up with the memories. And that's my job. That's why I've lasted 51 years, because I believe that every kid out there deserves somebody to give him that direction. And God chose me to be the one to do it with the Sunset Tigers. Not all the other teams. I mean, you got good teams out in this town. You got the Mighty Vikings. You got the Wolfpack. You got the Seahawks. You got the Cardinals. All them teams out there, the Saints, they're doing the same thing, but they need help. Help means give them something to make that kid being proud of his neighborhood. Not want to wear the colors of a game. You want to wear colors of his football team or his basketball team. We should learn that forced schooling don't work. It makes kids meaner, hateful, because they're being forced to go to schools that they don't want to go to. That's being pushed on them, and when that's being pushed on them, they fight back in school. They cause disruption in school. Now you got to kick him out of here and put him in an alternative school because he don't want to be at that school. If anything we need to learn from 1957 is that's not working. Forced schooling is not working. You know, a lot of people going to tell you, oh, it looks good, it's working, it's this, that. No, it's not. It's covered up. In my opinion, it's covered up.